So hi, Yanni.
How are you, Ed?
I'm good. We're here at the Rabid Elephant booth, and you make kind of really coveted modules, as some might say.
Yes,
So you,
somewhat.
you've had the natural gate out for a while, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's been out for a couple of years now.
And we're going to have a look at the Portal kick, right? So it's a
Yep.
new kick drum module.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, talk us through it.
Okay, so this is our sort of late prototype for the what we're calling the Portal kick, and it started off as just for our own personal use in our tracks and how we were mixing, and so we really wanted to make, and this is true as a general sort of design philosophy these days for everything we work on. We really wanted to make something that was very constrained and very targeted towards a specific musical purpose. And so, we generally found that with most kick sources, either from drum machines or samples or what have you, you usually have a whole sort of chain of compression and equalization, all kinds of post-processing you have to do to make it sit nice in a mix, and we sort of have the general ability to design something where we wanted to sort of front load as much of the mixing tasks as you could onto the panel itself. So one of the developments here was putting a high pass filter. So these are dual concentrics here, and so. Yeah, so we put a high pass filter in there in case you wanted something a little bit lighter, or you could go all the way down for something that's a little bit more of a banger type
I
of
mean,
thing.
it's great, easy knob to reach for if you're playing live because you can just
Exactly.
pull the kick out.
Yeah, very much performance-centric kind of interface. And then you have your usual sort of amp decay here, though we do range all of our custom envelopes. So originally we were sort of putting sine waves through our natural gate to get our kick drums, and then we were going through 3 or 4 different modules, and it was taking up so much space in our racks we decided to just kind of put it all in one. So we did use the custom envelope sort of concept, and we've really tried to range both the amp envelope and the pitch envelopes in a very specific way. So and it can do your sweep between more of like a bouncy 808 kind of vibe without much pitch decay at all, and it can climb up there too. But one thing I should say is because we designed it specifically to function as a kick drum appropriate to most sort of genres that would use an electronic kick drum, the ranging of the parameters is not like crazy. Like even the tune won't go up into sort of laser and perk sounds. It's really gonna, it's not gonna go much higher than like a tom kind of a sound. And the same is true here. You're not gonna get too much like zaps. The extent is gonna kind of right around there. That's about as crazy as it would get, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're almost in like full GABA territory.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's really designed around, even the way we range the sweeping of the knobs, we try to make it so that everything's a very smooth transition. And then we have 2 different methods of creating transients. So we call it a click and a take. One's a little bit thicker. I can't quite hear what I'm doing, but let's hope it turns out all right. There's the tick and there's the click. One is a little bit sort of hollower and knockier, and the other one is a bit sharper, which should probably be a little bit more appropriate for minimal genres or what have you. And there's just the entire kind of finely dialed range of possibilities from the 2 different transients really affects the character, almost like the material characteristic. Like this would be obviously sounding much clickier, much more of a plasticky style of a kick.
So you were trying to, were you trying to kind of emulate what a real kick drum would do? Or the
Not
control?
necessarily, but we found as we started trying to decide how to range all of these elements together that it did sort of have that effect of like, you know, getting the mic closer to the beater when the transient was dialed up, for example. But we did make sure not to even think about releasing it until we put it through its paces. So one of the techniques we used to see if it was sort of adequate enough for what we were designing it for was we found like a cappella moments or sort of drumless moments in our favorite songs. And if we could get this to sit well within that mix of like a, you know, like a Quincy Jones production or like a Simeon Mobile Disco tune or something like that, if we could get that kick to sit nicely within those contexts, we knew we had something that was sort of practical enough
And flexible enough.
and
right?
flexible enough to fit multiple different genres. So that's the final thing is once we'd gotten the signed core element and the ranging of that down, we sort of almost by accident just hooked it up to, we were working on a VCO with a wavefolder on the end of it, and just for, you know, for kicks, I decided to plug in the kick breadboard directly into the
For kicks, that's it.
yeah, you
Choice of
got
words.
it. Yep, pun. Let's call that pun intended, shall we? Yeah. So, and it ended up sounding.
And that's the portal control.
Yeah.
right?
So again, like if you want, it can get pretty wild up here. That's probably a bit too much. Again, we still got to finish ranging these a little bit, but for us, we really feel like the sweet spots are in the lower range of the dial. So you can go from something really soft and bouncy and pillowy down here, and this is just a wave folder, but it's already just doing a lot of tone shaping in the lower ranges of the dial, and you know that's so that's the tonal element of it. As for CV control, we have two kind of tricks up our sleeve on this one. So you have CV modulation over tune, decay, portal, and weight at the moment. We'll probably have an expander for the transients, and these sample and hold switches basically switch back and forth from continuous modulation or sample and hold, in which the trigger will just freeze the modulation. So a perfect example of that would be like if you're modulating the tune. I don't know if we'll be able to hear this much, but so that's continuous, and that'll just almost give you more of like a tune tom sort of a thing. And that's true of all the modulation sources.
That's what I really like about Akemi's Taiko is the kind of sample and hold.
Yeah, right.
On that.
Exactly.
But the ability to turn it on and off.
Yep.
I would really like to be able to do
Exactly.
that. I don't think that's what.
Yep.
I've actually asked Matthew to try and do that, but he says it's not possible.
Yeah,
with the chips.
it's true.
So,
We
yeah.
have two, by the way. Yeah, we have two.
So, do you want to just talk us through this? Because this is like a custom rig, right? So you've got.
Yes,
do
that
you
is
wanna just
correct.
Pull a few other things up, or have you? Got
If you would like, sure, I can walk you
Yeah.
through it a little bit. So after the kick, you know, we've been designing a whole suite of drum voices, amongst other things, and because our other drum voices are sample based, we could afford to sort of prototype them in the software domain. So this was our idea for our own just performance rig for how to get things recallable as well as tactile, and what you see is what you get. So one of the, you know, so each one of these rows is one of our sort of instruments at the moment. So that would be like the hi-hat module, for example. I don't know if you can hear that. And I can just assign either of these like wacky looking sort of almost vinylish knobs here to any of these parameters. You know, if you only have two knobs, they might as well be big and showy. Now, if we hit record on the DAW that this piggybacks onto, there's essentially a CV recorder under each of these parameters. So you can just record. Basically, you can record your performance and play it back at any rate. As soon as I tap out of the knobs do, where am I? Yeah, there we go. So now it's unassigned. If I recorded it, I can go back to any moment of the recording and I have the sound I need, but it's not flattened into audio. It just exists as CV. So I can go back and change any parameters on later iterations of a mix.
Yeah, so I didn't like how I changed that decay or whatever.
Yeah, so I can just go back into the the decay and shorten that up. Yeah, so that's kind of the idea behind that. We've done it even for our modules, like you can see the Acme's Tycho. That's all the blue switches here. We have that feeding our natural gate. So we've just tried to do it so that we can basically play out from the sessions that we compose the actual songs in, and just go in there and get into the parameters in a really sensible way.
Excellent, Yanni. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
Cheers, it's a pleasure, Ed.
There was one thing we didn't really talk about. You don't have a final kind of price on that yet, but do you kind of have an idea of when you want to get it out?
Well, first we got to deal with the next batch of natural gates. That's first on our list of to-dos, and that should be any time now. And I don't know, Phil, what do you think? Release time on the Portal Kick, price range? Up to a year. Yeah, we're right now we're thinking in the $500-600 range, but we don't know yet. It's a late prototype, so we're not sure what else is involved yet on the final manufacturing.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. It's been a pleasure.